Welcome to the After Chat. I'm Michael,
I'm Madison.
and today we're talking about quiet quitting on God.
Yikes.
Big yikes.
Not good.
Are you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the After Chat. Real questions. Real talk. Real life.
What's been the highlight of your week thus far?
I started feeling really crummy towards the end of the weekend, and I woke up on Monday not feeling good at all. But I am not fully gone. So that's my highlight, is that I'm not actually legitimately sick. I
You're
just had
still surviving.
one rough day with a little bit of a sore throat, which is good because a couple weeks ago I got super sick and I went down for the count hard, and that was super annoying because I just fall behind on stuff, and you're trying to recover from being sick and then also catch up on everything that you missed from while you were sick, and it's just frustrating. So I'm very thrilled that I am not as sick as I was worried I might be becoming. That's my highlight.
Well, you know what? That's a good one.
Yeah. So if I seem low energy at all today, it's just because I'm still starting to feel back to normal.
But you're happy to be.
I'm
here.
excited to be here. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. So we did a team out at my campus. We do a quarterly team offsite kind of thing, just to kind of hang out and connect. And we don't really talk about church or anything. We just do something fun together. And so we did what we called Souptober. And everybody brought this is like the leadership team at the Farmville campus. And everybody brought a crock pot with a soup or a stew. And then we had a little voting thing, and then whoever was voted as the best, like a little secret ballot kind of deal, you won a mystery value Lowe's card that I happened to have, that I was given, but it had no this is how much is on it. So it was a fun little razzle dazzle mystery element to it.
Did you end up finding out how much was on it?
$150.
Dang.
No, it was a good win.
Well, good for them.
And so, but everybody brought really cool soups and stews and busted out their best recipes, and it was a good time.
What kind of soup won?
It was a very delicious chicken noodle.
Classic.
It was a classic comfort Southern dish.
One of my favorite soups, mostly because of the name, and also it's just delicious, but it's at Olive Garden, is called Zuppa Toscana.
Yeah? What's that mean?
Zuppa Toscana. I don't know.
You gotta hit the...
I think it means Tuscan soup.
Okay.
I think that's all it means. Anyways, it's Olive Garden. I don't know. There's kale and sausage and bacon and... does it have... No, the gnocchi one has actual gnocchi. It's called chicken and gnocchi. Anyways, it's one of the easy ones to make at home, but...
Okay.
It's just got a really fun name.
No, so I made... I want to get the name right. So I made a Babylonian lamb stew. It's the oldest recorded recipe on Earth. And and my laptop just died. So
no!
So we're gonna be sharing Madison.
Yeah.
But so it's a lamb and parsnip stew.
Huh.
And so I went to Wegmans the day before and bought stewed lamb, a cubed leg of lamb, and got up at 5:00 that Sunday morning and started searing it, and got the coriander and the cumin and the salt and everything. And
it's ambitious.
And my stars.
I do really like parsnips.
No, I do too.
They're really good.
They smell so good.
Especially roasted. I mean, it sounds good in a soup too, but.
So I put that on there. So that's what I made. It was Imaru Shin Nanunu or something like that. I butchered it. We'll put a link somewhere. But it was fantastic. And so it was It was an awesome night. Like we all just sat around, played two truths and a lie, and because we have so many new people, like everybody brought their spouse or significant other, and
Nice.
so we all just sat around and played that, and then did soup tasting and stew tasting, and so that was an absolute great time.
Did everybody like to get to split up the leftovers? and,
Yes.
like, take,
So some
Nice.
folks brought Tupperware
It's a cookie exchange,
and
but for
and
soup.
and took the soups and stews of their
Nice.
choice, and it was a great time. Like everybody had a really fun experience at that.
That's awesome. I love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, Souptober.
Souptober. All right, our next question. We're talking about quiet quitting on God. So kind of in the theme of quitting. Have you ever quit a job before?
Yes. Not proud of how it happened. I was fresh out of high school and delivering pizzas. And the Rams, I'm from Missouri, so this was the St. Louis Rams were in the Super Bowl, and it was madness. And I was delivering pizza in our neighboring town, and one of the I got an order, took it, and it was an entire group of people that I knew, and they were having a party, and I
Oh no.
I went back and gave my change pouch that you carry and quit, and then went to said party.
Just for the party.
Yes.
Just for the party. That's awesome. I'm really glad you brought the change pouch back.
I took it back.
Yeah. You have some lines.
I mean, I'm not going to take it and not just, who knew how long I was going to be there?
It's a party. Who knows? I love that. That's awesome. Most of the jobs. So I've never like quit anything like on the spot before. But I mean, I've wanted to, but I haven't. But most of the jobs that I've quit have been like this weird, like I've sort of quit, but not really. Like my first like real job was at Chick-fil-A, and I was 15 when I got hired. When I was 16, I became a nanny with this great family that I nannied for 5 years. It was such a great job. But I told them at Chick-fil-A, I was like, hey, I've got this other job. Can you take me off the schedule for a little bit? And then like around summer when I have more time, I'll come back in and do both. I never talked to them again. And I feel bad about that, but I don't think that they remember. Hopefully.
I mean, if they're still dwelling, like it's sitting.
I mean, nobody ever said it. My sister also worked there, and she stayed working there for a while after, and no one said anything to her. So who knows? I might still be on the books somewhere, just not ever scheduled. I don't know. And then I did a similar thing when I worked at a library, and I started working here. I used all of my built-up leave to just work like part-time hours at the library so that I had the free time to intern here. And I just kind of slowly phased myself out and went down to when I got full-time here, and then I had like 4 hours a week at the library. And I don't know, I guess I don't make I'm not a good quitter because I don't quit like in a convincing way. It's just a slow peter out. I don't know. Anyways, what about hobbies? Are there any hobbies that you have slowly drifted away from?
I wish I don't juggle as much as I used to. Like that was
It's funny because it sounds like it means two different things. Like, yes, you don't juggle as much as you used to, but it also sounds like you're not as busy as you used to be. Like, I don't have to juggle as much as I used to.
I'm talking about the actual juggling. I really got into it for a really long time, and I got to where I could do basic 3-ball patterns pretty well, but I never kept going to where I could learn to juggle 4 or 5.
Man, I don't even know. That hurts my brain a little bit.
But it was so so we was out at the Halloween parade in Farmville this past Saturday, and I was dressed as a Jedi. And so one of the things that I'd try to do to whenever we're all set up over there is you just go out and start juggling in front of stuff. Like that gets kids' attention. And so when we was at the 5-county fair, we had our community awareness tent set up. I was out there and I was juggling for that, and that brought a lot of people over, and opened up the door to conversations and getting folks connected with our church and everything. And so I've had like 2 experiences recently where I've gotten to do it. And so
Maybe
kind of
it's
miss
back
it.
in.
And
Maybe it's
so
back in your
maybe
rotation.
that's something I start doing again on the reg. I don't know, but that's a hobby that I kind of drifted away from just because you have to dedicate like time and practice to it.
It's probably really good for your brain, I would imagine, to like
Maybe,
the
yeah.
coordination that it takes to do something. Like
Yes.
just it's just using a part of your brain that you don't have to use all the time.
Well, your hand-eye coordination, especially if you don't want to just constantly be looking up, but able to look out and interact with people, you have to stay consistent with it.
Crazy.
So that way, just as they pass your periphery, you can just get it
Yeah. Huh.
and keep doing it. Like the good ones that you see, like Penn Jillette or somebody, whenever you watch them do it, they're not even looking at the things. Like they're still interacting with the crowd and the audience, and
That's really
it's
wild.
bananas to see people that are really really good at it.
Man, you should learn a magic card trick. That would be fun.
I did. So I'm also an impulse buyer.
Ah.
Like, and so I did buy one not too long ago because I wanted to do it.
Nice.
So
that was how my very first boyfriend got me. He pulled me in with the magic card trick. We were like 15 years old in youth group, and he was like, "Pick a card." And I was like, "Okay," and it got me good.
We're going steady now.
Yes. Like, and I have a crush on you because that was cool. Who knows why? Anyways.
Well, what about you?
I would say probably crocheting. I love crocheting, and I still would do it. It's just that like the storage space to keep yarn and also projects that you have already made, like that's extra space that I don't really have room for. But it's so
I could see that.
soothing. It's so soothing, especially when you've gotten really into a good flow and you're not like having to stop and check like, okay, what does the pattern say next, and where is my stitch at, and how many more of this stitch do I need to do? Like when it's something that you just know what you're doing and you can just flow on it, like a granny square, those are usually pretty easy, and you can just zip around and finish one in like 20 minutes. It feels so good and like so soothing and relaxing. But I think if I got back into it, I'm also a little bit of an impulse buyer. I haven't bought this yet, but I do want to buy one. Those glasses that you can wear so that they have like a mirror on them. So basically you can like lay flat in bed and be reading a book or crocheting right here. And you're just looking straight up, but because the mirror is reflecting, it's bouncing. You're looking into the mirror in your glasses. I'll just put a picture up maybe, and you can see what it looks like.
Cool. I've never seen those.
So you can read, do whatever while you're lying flat without like messing anything up. And also you can use it when you're sitting straight up, and you can be doing it down here in your lap and still be looking ahead without having to have your head down, because we've all got tech neck with the little bulge at the back of our neck because we don't have good posture. So that's what I like. I feel like that would feel so much better to sit and read for a while just like looking straight ahead instead of having to be like that. But anyways, who knows?
I
might get one. I doubt they're very expensive. I just have never bothered to order one because at this point I don't really buy that much stuff online. So I don't know.
All right.
Anyways, back on track.
I really want to check out those glasses.
I know they're pretty cool.
That could be.
They make you look really funny, but they're pretty cool.
No, I'm going to look at those. So we're going to be talking about like when faith feels stale and you just are kind of quiet quitting and slowly drifting away from God, because that's usually how it happens. It's usually, sometimes it can be. I don't want to like say it's never, but most of the time you just find yourself, holy smokes, like I haven't prayed, I haven't talked to God, I haven't done anything to grow in my relationship with him. Yeah. So we'll kind of look at broad strokes of what that looks like, and then we'll just kind of look at some causes. So what does it look like in broad strokes to just feel kind of stale? Yeah, so a stale spiritual life is really kind of marked by the where somebody's relationship is at with God, whether it feels stagnant, maybe lifeless, like you can't quite you don't feel that connection maybe that you once felt, or it could even lean really hard into routine or just checking your list of to-dos off of, okay, yeah,
check mark, spent time with God, but it didn't quite feel the way that it maybe usually does. And that would kind of be, if you compared it to what a spiritual life that is not stale feels like, that's one that is really, it's fresh, it's growing, you're excited. You're maybe not always super excited about what's going on, but it feels vibrant. There's always going to be highs and lows,
Yeah.
right? Even when your faith is not stuck in a routine, but it will overall feel very fresh, very new. But when it's stale, it'll feel stagnant and lifeless. And it's marked less by outright rebellion and more apathy, which I think apathy is a really, really great word to use in combination with stale. Just apathetic. Ugh. What's the laissez-faire? Is that the phrase?
That's
Is
kind
that
of
right?
in that vibe.
Anyways, so you're kind of just going through the motions. You don't have a whole lot of passion. There's not a whole lot of depth to how you're talking to God, what you're talking about. There's not a lot of current transformation happening in you. So it can look like, very specifically, a loss of hunger for God. So that's prayer, worship, and scripture. They begin to feel dry, forced. Maybe it's even neglected, so you're not even engaging with those spiritual practices at all. Again could be really stuck in routine, but your routine does not bring you any renewal in your spiritual walk. So your spiritual practices, they're done out of that habit or obligation, and not because you really, really are motivated to sit down and spend time with God. And it's less about that relationship there. And it can also look like diminished sensitivity to God's presence. So God's presence, his guidance, conviction, the Holy Spirit, it feels distant, muted. You just don't feel that connection that you used to have.
I think that might look like for a lot of folks, just like being on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
just
you're
kind of
just
numb. So a lot of people will use the word disassociation, derealization, depersonalization.
yeah.
There are some contexts to that are 100%, legitimate mental health issues that are really, really difficult to navigate. Sometimes I do think we might overuse those words, and it
Yeah.
can just be you're just a little bit numb right now, and there is something really real that we can do about it right now.
Yes.
So it also, again, it looks like lack of growth. So there's not a whole lot of real movement towards deeper faith, love. There's an obedience over time. I would also say really the lack of growth for me, when I go through seasons like this, shows up the most in how I interact with other people. I am the most immature version of myself,
Mm.
in how I interact with others when my relationship with God is stale. He is the one that makes me function in a mature way,
I think
and
that's
grow.
that it I think that's where a lot of people miss it. And I think
Yeah.
you really hit something there. It for me, it definitely shows up in the way I interact with others. If I'm not firing on all cylinders with my relationship with the Lord, I am short, I am
Yep.
grouchy,
Mhm.
I'm my
Insecure.
humor, yes, and my humor gets a lot more sharp and pointed.
Yeah.
And
Or you just say stupid stuff because
yes.
you're not listening to the Holy Spirit in you, checking you before you open your mouth and start talking. So totally get that. I've said some of the stupidest stuff that I regret the most is absolutely in seasons of time where my faith has been a little bit more stale and I'm not quite engaging with it how I
Yeah.
usually do. And then kind of finally, the main way that this can really show up is it looks like drifting focus. So your faith becomes more about your comfort, your convenience, your tradition, rather than pursuing God Himself in that relationship. So those are just a couple of the ways that it can look like. It doesn't. I say all that and then I end with the point that it doesn't necessarily mean that you've abandoned your faith. If you're experiencing those things, it doesn't mean that you have abandoned your faith. It doesn't mean that I've abandoned my faith in seasons where I've been in that mode. It just means that you're on a little bit of a spiritual autopilot, and there's a way to maybe bring in some vitality and joy. So Michael's gonna set us up and talk
Yeah.
about.
So the causes of it.
Yes.
And so that's really where like we all can kind of see when people you can kind of see when people aren't really being
Mhm.
their best self. And so
Yeah.
there's usually a cause for it. We typically just kind of write it off as, well, they're just a jerk
Yeah.
or they just don't care, instead of maybe taking a you know,
Yeah.
giving them some grace and understanding that there might be some underlying causes.
Yeah.
And
It's really easy to put people in a box of like all bad, all good.
yes,
And that's something that I don't widen my perspective. I don't widen my perspective out enough to think maybe there's something else going on here that has shifted the way that I'm interacting with
yes.
it that like feels off. So
And I do that too. It's one of the most natural, most human things. We want to
Mhm.
compartmentalize and write folks off.
Yeah.
No, that's just what we do.
Yeah.
And so, but there are some causes that you might want to look at. And usually, whenever I'm in a space where I'm not growing, there's something almost always. There's something that I just don't want to talk about with God because I don't want to admit it to myself.
Yeah. Yep.
That's almost 99.9% of the time. That's what it is for me. But it might be something different for everybody.
It's interesting. Okay, that's interesting that you say that because I can totally relate to that. And sometimes it is like I'm sort of like a Jonah moment where it's like I know what I should be doing, but I'm avoiding
But
you
I
because you
don't
want
want
me
to
to do
do
the
it.
thing. But sometimes it's just wasn't even aware that this one thought about myself or how I viewed myself, how I viewed God, how I viewed a situation. I wasn't even aware that it was occupying every moment,
Yeah.
every point of my headspace. I didn't know that it had driven that wedge in between me and God until I actually have a little bit of quiet to start processing, and then I know. So I'm curious if
No,
does that
so,
happen with you where you're like,
no,
whoa, that's what's going
no,
on.
and that typically happens whenever I've mentioned it here before, but like my one kneeling stool prayer that I do,
Yeah.
like, God, I present myself now. That's everywhere. You can find that on a bunch of different episodes. But
Yeah.
that's almost always whenever I'm sitting there and I just present myself to God and I just shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Usually those things will drift to the surface.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that it was in there.
Yeah.
But sometimes that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
More often than not, though, it's because I'm in the Jonah mode and I don't want to talk about something.
Yeah.
Because the second that I do it, but that can also lead to other realizations because I usually do those out loud. And whenever I'm in that space and I'm just talking out loud with God, just like any conversation, it ebbs, it flows, it goes up, it goes down, and then
Yeah.
before you know it, I'm talking about something that I didn't know was even bugging me.
Yeah.
So it can really look either way.
Interesting.
But typical causes of that is, like we just mentioned, a neglect of our regular spiritual practices that keep us connected with God.
Yeah.
There's usually a reason why you're not doing it.
Yep.
And it can be a whole lot of things. It can be like distraction or busyness.
Mhm.
That can be a reason why you're not doing it.
Maybe your schedule's changed, but you haven't
Yes.
adjusted your spiritual practice
Yes.
schedule.
And that has gotten me.
Yep, that gets me a lot.
That
It's
gets
really
me
frustrating.
whenever I have like a very busy week.
Yeah.
Or a week where I just got more going on than I usually do. Exercise and talking with God are usually the things, or not always talking with God, but like spending time in the Word.
That gets me more than praying. Yeah.
Dedicated quiet time
Yes.
goes right out the window.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that keeps
Makes
me
me
the
feel
most
good.
tight.
Yeah. So annoying.
And so, but just that, and that's not like you're not doing it on purpose, but you're just not being intentional.
Yeah.
In any relationship, you have to be intentional with it.
Mm-hmm.
Unconfessed sin or compromise. That's usually a thing where I've done something stupid
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to admit it to myself.
Yeah.
That's almost that it will get you.
It will.
And that is a block that you put up by yourself.
Yes. And you usually know when you're doing it too. And it's really easy to justify that it's
Well, I did the thing. I was right to do the stupid thing or the bad thing or the wrong thing because I had a really good reason.
Yeah. So like if your unconfessed sin or your compromise or something that's going on that's separating you from God, It's your choice to do it. And then it's really easy to justify it day to day. And it's even easier to all of a sudden look back and realize, oh, it's been a month
Yeah.
of me justifying every day to myself that this is okay to keep me separated from God, or to justify yourself out of like, oh, there's not distance between me and God over this. I'm still listening to my worship music. I'm still reading the Bible.
And for
Okay,
me,
but are you sitting in silence with
and,
him? Are you praying?
and for
You
me,
know?
that's where you're almost compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes a routine.
Yep.
Like, I'm still ticking all the boxes, I'm still doing all the other things, but I'm not addressing with the Lord this thing over here.
And the funny thing is, like, he knows it's
He
going
already
on.
knows it.
He knows it's going on, and he wants to talk to you about it, and he wants to help take it off of your shoulders and free it off, like, from occupying so much of your headspace.
And that's why I phrase it as
But we're like, no.
and that's why I phrase it as I don't want to admit it to myself.
Yeah.
Because if I say it, then I have to acknowledge it.
Yep.
And I don't want to.
Yeah.
And anytime that you start a whole series of I don't,
Yep.
just let that be a red flag.
Yeah. Another thing that's interesting to me about that is that it can look so different from person to person.
Yes.
So like for some people, if anger is like a real hiccup for you, the thing that might be driving a wedge between you and God, it might be your road rage during your prayer time on your way to work every day.
That you don't want to talk about.
It might be that. It might be what you're doing by yourself when nobody else is looking. It might be how you're taking care of yourself and how you're treating the body that you've been given while you're here on earth, and like going overboard with what you eat, with what you drink, with substances. All of that can feel so easy when you're by yourself to convince yourself that it's okay.
Yeah.
But depending on who you are and what your kind of like crutch is, this can look very different person to person, but it is all something that we all have to navigate regularly and stay on
100%.
top of.
Another cause could be your self-isolating.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's
a good one.
There's a meme that or it's not a meme, but it's like a cartoon that I saw, and like it was just like a still image, and it was this person sitting on a mountaintop, but their head was a solved Rubik's cube. And it's so much easier to have it all figured out when you're by yourself. But once you know what I'm saying? But you're missing something because you're not actually putting it into practice by being in community with other people.
Yes.
And so
solitude is good.
it can't, no.
But not all the time.
Not all the time. Like
Yeah.
Jesus even went away and got
Yeah.
quiet time with the Lord. Like we all need that. That's something that everybody needs to have. But if you're trying to live out and model what it looks like to follow Jesus, you cannot do it alone. Like
Yeah.
he would have said there wouldn't be any reason for the church.
Yeah. And this is an interesting thing for me, which I'm getting us a little bit off the
No, you're
rails slightly, but I think of like some early church fathers that were part of our Christian walk now, because we're still reading what they said, and there's been a lot of people who have really leaned into that solitude. There's a couple monks that have gone off into solitude that we read stuff, but most of the time you think of somebody who's like a real spiritually deep person that really knows what they're talking about, that can teach really well. I think it's easy for us to assume somebody who's like a little bit like a hermit, that's got their nose in a book all day, that is constantly learning and writing and figuring things out. But most of the spiritual leaders that we look to are around other people consistently.
Yes.
In environments where they have little to nothing because they've given up what they have to give to others, and they're actively like working together in their community to like achieve. If you think of like a monastery,
Yeah.
they're all working together to make food, to wash the dishes, to wash the laundry. Like they're actively working together.
And then they're leaving the monastery and usually going and serving the area around them in some way.
Yeah, I do think God created a select number of people who were destined at some point in their spiritual walk to go wander by themselves and spend some time by themselves, but that is not the standard for everybody.
No, but I mean, you can't. We just weren't meant to do this by ourselves.
Yeah.
We just weren't, and so that, and whenever you start self isolating, you rob yourself of allowing God to use the people around you to speak into you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you being able to do that for them.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, usually somebody, if there's been times where I've said something stupid or in my small group, and someone afterwards has said, "Hey, bro, like,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
up?
Me too.
Like, what's going on?" And you need that. And
Yeah.
that's a way that, and if you're actually going to be a humble person that models humility, you have to put yourself in positions to where you can have other people maybe point things out to you that are a little uncomfortable, that you
Yeah.
haven't wanted to deal with before. And
Yeah.
so the last one would probably be disappointment or some sort of woundedness, like that you
Oh,
haven't processed or dealt with, whether it's you've
that's a
been
good
hurt
one.
by people, you had a prayer that wasn't answered in the way that you wanted or didn't feel like it was answered at all, you had some sort of unmet expectation that can harden your heart towards God.
Man.
And that is a big one. And I hear that, like, you can relate to that. I mean, because it's an easy, I can see how you got from to B from A.
Yeah.
But you're also, if you're taking out your frustrations at people on God, you're allowing somebody to influence how you relate to your creator.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that goes often unnoticed, and you don't even realize you're doing it a lot of the time.
Yeah. I think particularly when it comes to the disappointment or the woundedness, like it it's it's one of those things that you can see. We've talked before about the deconstruction and how usually deconstruction of faith starts off with people who have been let down by the church or let down by who they thought God was or what they thought God should do that did not happen the way that they thought. So it's like it is a very, very common reason to completely change the way that you think about faith.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the thing that puts you in that space is when you ignore that it shook you
Yeah.
in the first place, because there's so many examples in the Bible of people questioning God and pouring their heart out about how they're disappointed or frustrated or angry with what has happened,
Or what they see in the world.
or what they see going on in the world, and then they just are able to, as they're expressing, like pretty much any psalms, it's similar, lamentations, like it's this deep expression and then a little bit of like a rewrite as you go, where eventually you can see where they land on, but God, you know what you're doing, but God, you're holy. And I think when you don't stop to acknowledge what your feelings are and actually express them to God, that's when this disappointment or woundedness, that's when the wedge drives in, because you're just brushing it off for another day, but you're not noticing how it's affecting your what was the other word that was used? Um, your Is it down here? Oh, it
I
was
don't
such a good word. Your sensitivity,
Apathy.
maybe.
Oh yeah,
So there was
diminished
some.
sensitivity.
Yeah, maybe that was what it was. There was some word that we had used earlier that was the idea of this like slow. Yeah, I think it was a diminished sensitivity. You're not noticing that you're pulling away
Yes,
when you keep it to yourself. All of a sudden, you look back and it's like, whoa, what happened?
I think God. I think God, just based on Psalms and based on I mean, Lamentations, if you not read it, like that was written, Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, it's often attributed to him whenever the siege of Jerusalem happened and the Babylonians came in. And it was just an absolute war zone to the most worst epic proportions.
And before they
And
even came in, it was like a
it was
crap
pretty
show.
bad. And
Yeah.
so, like,
People were
read it.
sacrificing babies.
Yes,
It was
and all sorts of
awful.
things. And so you can, and he just went to God and wept and ranted and was upset and pitched hissy fits,
Hmm.
and lots of the psalms are hissy fits.
Yeah.
If I mean, they are, But
Yeah.
at least you're still talking to him.
Yep. Exactly.
You're acknowledging him.
He can handle it.
He can handle a hissy fit. He's the Lord.
Yep.
And just keep talking to him, keep lamenting, keep griping, just keep that line of communication open.
Yeah.
And, it's whenever I stop doing that,
Yeah.
I rant all the time to God in the car. There's usually one a day
Yep.
where I'm just like, Lord, I don't know what to do with these feelings.
Yeah.
I'm upset. You invite me to cast my anxiety and worries onto you. Here we go.
I don't know what I would do if there wasn't some outlet for my feelings. I would be a mess. I have so many emotions and almost none of them make sense.
That is true. No, I'm just
It'd be so annoying to not have somewhere to go with them. It'd be so overwhelming.
And so but that's kind of what it looks like, some of what it looks like in reality, and in some of the potential reasons for it, some of the common reasons for feeling distant, where your relationship with the Lord feels stale.
Mm.
And we'll talk about what we do in those situations after this clip.
We often talk about being thankful for our blessings. No doubt about it, we ought to do that. We teach that here a lot. Thankfulness is key, for sure. But this parable that Jesus gives us goes further. We shouldn't just be thankful. What he's talking about is that we should be faithful. Thankfulness reflects gratitude, but faithfulness reflects trust. Thankfulness is me as a passive recipient. I just received it. Faithfulness is me as a devoted servant. Thankfulness makes me only responsible for my heart position, but faithfulness holds me accountable for doing something, taking action. When my last moment comes, when your last moment comes, the single differentiating factor between hearing God say to you, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," or "You wicked, lazy servant," the single differentiating factor between those two statements will be faithfulness. My faithfulness, your faithfulness, or lack of it. Because the truth is, God's already been faithful to us. How? With all of those things that we could name, some of which we just did name, including the very breath in my lungs.
Love that. And that is a message we'll have linked down in the show notes, and you definitely want to
It's
check
so
that
good.
out.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
One of the things that he mentioned there, the single differentiating factor between hearing God say to me, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," and "You wicked, lazy servant," will be faithfulness. And that stems, for me, whenever I go into my funk or my thing, one of the things that really helps me get out of it is remembering where God has been faithful to me,
Mm.
and I can give thanks for him for that. And that often helps me that helps remind me to be faithful to him going forward.
Yeah.
Regardless of how I feel, regardless of my circumstances, even if I need to rant and pitch a fit, or, that's still demonstrating that you're being faithful by just keeping the dialogue and the communication open and putting yourself in a position to hear from him so he can bring up whatever the thing is, or help you get to the root of whatever the thing is that's causing that distance and that staleness and that routine and that rut.
Yeah.
It starts with me remembering to be thankful
Yeah.
for what he's already done in the past. That gives me the confidence to be faithful to him going forward.
So, practically, what does that look like? How do you put yourself, especially if you're currently maybe facing you might be a little bit numb in your relationship with God, but you might be facing big feelings at the moment. How do you practically kind of sit yourself down and focus on where he has been faithful to you before and find that gratitude?
Even if I am grumpy, and I mean, in all of those Psalms, you mentioned it, there's a turn somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Big feelings, big feelings, big feelings. But God, I know something. you speak some sort of characteristic about him. For me, it's helpful whenever I say, "Gosh, even I go through my spiritual memory checklist.
Yeah.
God was faithful here in this situation where things sucked and were awful and were terrible.
Yeah.
God was faithful here in this situation where it sucked and it was awful and it was terrible." And even before I even acknowledged him and recognized him as my Lord and Savior, before I was a follower of him, I can look back to times there
Yeah.
where God was faithful.
So cool.
And that helps me to set my own not pretend they're not there. I mean, you feel what you feel.
Yeah.
You can't just shut those off. Those are baked in through a whole host of
Yeah. They don't have to
things
control
that-
you,
but-
but you
but
can't
you-
make them always go
but
away.
you don't have to give in to them.
Yep.
You can act in spite of your feelings. And
Yeah.
that is a big marker of whether or not I'm being faithful.
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
grumpy and I'm angry and I'm ticked off about all those things over here. This person over here still bears the image of God,
Yeah.
and so I probably shouldn't be ranting and raving and taking off all of my grumpiness on them.
Yeah. Yep.
And that also increases or changes the ways that I pray.
Yeah.
God, I'm feeling this sort of way, but help keep me in this moment here.
Mm.
And help me to see this person or this situation how you see it. And that almost always, unless I'm just being a butthead, like softens my heart
Yeah.
and opens my eyes to see where he's working around me.
Yeah. I think there's a couple phrases that I have leaned on before. The idea of God soften my heart. God and now I'm blanking on there's usually some quick phrases whenever I'm like in a season where I'm struggling. I've talked about it before. I have up and down mental health stuff that I'm navigating. Sometimes it's a breeze and sometimes it's like fighting an uphill battle, and usually in those seasons it also will affect the way that how I feel like my spiritual life is going. So to be able to have this like phrase on rotation of like, God, I don't feel you, but I know you're there. God, I don't feel you, but I
Yes.
know you're there. That helps me remember that it's not up to my emotions do not define exactly how everything is going. Like
Yes.
there's truth outside of how I'm feeling that I can lean on. But super practically, when I have been aware that I'm in a rut, when my relationship with God is not, I don't feel that connection. I usually need to step away at some point. So that's kind of my practical how I will pull myself out of a season of my relationship with God that is not. Doesn't feel alive and fresh and full of growth and transformation, is I usually need to step away. So what that has looked like for me the past couple of years has we actually do semi-regular spiritual retreats
Yeah.
around here. Those have always been great for me to take advantage of, to go away overnight. And it's a dedicated space that the only time I'm ever there, if you're in Virginia, it's Richmond Hill in Richmond. There's a building there that is that it is just a retreat center for all denominations to gather at. And so anytime I'm there, I'm focused on my spiritual retreat. So like walking into the building puts me in a headspace of refreshing my relationship with God. But it doesn't just have to be there. Sometimes I just need to take a day off and I need to go into Richmond. I think I've also talked about this before. One of my favorite ways to spend a day where I just need to reset is to go to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts in Richmond. And just depending on the weather, my preference is to just sit out on the greens, the grass around, and just people watch and soak up the quiet and the stillness. And usually there's some kind of like appreciation for others that I find there because I do get to people watch, and it's a pretty interesting place to people watch.
It
There's
is.
a lot of different folks coming by, so that's a good spot for me.
I like seeing the people come out excited and talking about if they're with the like other folks, like
Yeah.
the things that they thought were cool.
Yeah.
Like that's a neat thing.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite locations, but it could really be anywhere. It could be on a trail for the day, and you're just walking out in nature. Which we just recently talked about how beneficial being in nature can be. But the point of that, of all of me sharing about these different spaces is just to say I have to get away, and I have to say this is what I'm doing. It's not an accident. I need refreshment. And Jesus exampled this for us in the Bible too. There are other faith leaders in the Bible who showed us an example of this, where they would step away and commune with God before coming back to the people that they were leading. And that's really what helps me kind of break that. The thing that's really difficult to navigate, more so than the how to handle it once you know it, is how to catch it before you're like, 6 months, a year in, and like, whoa, everything's different now. So the more sensitive that you can get to catching when things feel off, the easier they are to step away and refresh. And also, there's something to be said for, we all go through dry seasons in our faith.
Yeah.
Not everything is going to be God and I are in sync, tight. I hear his voice all the time. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly where I'm going. At some point, you do just have to dig deep and be faithful, even if you're not feeling all of the same things that you
Yes.
were once feeling. But you can find ways to step away and connect with God, and just know, okay, I'm at least investing. Even if this doesn't change, even if, I don't feel 180 degree, shift in my relationship with God, I have at least continued to put the effort into getting away to commune with him and make it not about my routine, but about
Yes.
our relationship.
And usually that's where being in community really helps the most.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
even if you don't see him doing, like, even if you're in a season where there's not a lot going on in yours, you can still be excited and see what he's doing in the lives of other people that you're investing in.
Especially
and
people who are like new to faith.
Yes.
Oh, it's so much fun.
And so, practical go-dos, find a space that works for you
Mm-hmm.
to go and reconnect and be refreshed, and write down a list of things. Like, look back over the span of your lifetime and just take note of the things that God did
Mm-hmm.
for you. Anytime God did something big, they built something like in its place, and then told people to go back and remember what God did here.
Yeah.
You might not need to go out. You don't need to go out and build an altar everywhere that
Yeah.
something happened, but you can look back over the span of your life and just get a notepad
Yeah.
and jot down the things. When X happened, God did this.
Yeah.
God showed up in this way. When Y happened, God showed up in this way. Put it somewhere that you can see on the reg if you're in one of these seasons, and
Mhm.
let that be a reminder to you to keep staying faithful regardless of what your circumstances are, because you can look back and say, God did this. I don't know what God's going to do right now or God's going to do during this, but I can put my faith and hope in the fact that he will do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom.
Good stuff.
So, we hope you enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Thought that was a good spot to land it.
Yeah.
And leave us a review, and we will shoot you out an After Chat mug.
Yeah.
And check us out next week for another episode of the After Chat.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for the After Chat. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To be the first to hear our next episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button and get notifications for new content. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram at PCC Wired and Facebook at Passion Community Church. For additional resources and links, check out the description. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on The After Chat.